Hello, gardening friends. I'm John Dromgoole. I hope you're having a great day out in the garden. Come in for a little while. It's hot out there. It's dry out there, and it's important to work on the soil at least. Do it in the evening. It's a great time to work. Well, it's been a tough year, and the organic gardeners, though, it's not so tough because we have secrets that the chemical people don't have. And one of them is in the organic program. Well, the organic garden conserves water, but with the chemicals, it makes the darn garden thirsty. Whether it's your lawn or your garden or container plants, they get thirsty with all those salts in those things. But these don't have those salts. And so they stay nice and hydrated with the mulch on them. Mulch is so important in the organic garden, and so is the use of compost. Compost is like a sponge, and it holds the moisture much longer. And that's the secret to nourishing those roots, because the other half of the plant is down in that area right there. And if that's not taken care of, you're going to have problems with the rest of it. So the organic gardener knows that and tends to build the soil much better than any other project in the garden. Now, I do think that in the landscape, the use of native plants, that's organic gardening. That's the beauty of the native plants. That is organic gardening. But getting them adapted, getting them going out there requires a little bit of input from you, keeping them alive. Some of them don't make it. You go back in there, you try one that does make it. So I believe that the use of the native plants or other well-adapted plants also will do what we're talking about, and that is adapt themselves to saving water in your home garden. That's what that's all about. Besides beauty, that's what that's all about. And the pollinators come too. So I would look at native plants as a beautiful form of organic gardening. And then many of us already have gardens, and we're struggling this year, especially with the drought. The soil is powder dry, lacking in organic matter, and it's hard to replace down there, even though we built the soil originally with plenty of good homemade compost. Now, homemade compost is very important because you know what's in it. You put it in there. You know, it's not some strange thing coming into you. If you have a supply that you can depend on and you know it well, and you speak to the people who make it, then it's safe. But otherwise, the homemade compost is really the best one of them all because you know all about your compost. And it's a beautiful thing, too. Nourishing the garden is very important. Let's talk about the fall garden, the vegetables that are going in. Maybe some herbs are going in at this time. You work the compost in at least 4 inches. If the bed's been worked before, twist it into the top. Use your garden fork, put the compost on top, maybe 2 inches, and then take that garden fork and twist it down 4 inches again, rebuilding that garden soil. Then what you're going to do is use a seaweed type product. Seaweed, a lot of people hear about seaweed. The organic gardens always talk about seaweed. And many folks are new to organic gardening. Many folks have never heard of the use of seaweed in the garden because it's not really talked about in any of the big stores that sell just the chemicals. They don't address that product. And worldwide, seaweed is used. And when you use it in the garden, the seaweed helps improve the vigor of the cells on the plant. So going into the summer garden or going into the winter garden, the cells are much stronger. They tend not to collapse so easily. Foliar feeding is a good way to do that. Although in the heat, you do it at night. So it stays wet longer, it's absorbed by the plant, and you begin to see the strength that seaweed supplies. It's all the trace minerals from the melting glaciers, unfortunately, that are going into the ocean, and the seaweed plants are down there in the fjords gathering up these minerals, lots of minerals. And those are the minerals that help supply the vigor to the plant. And some of the other things that are created there are cytokinins, auxins, gibberellins. These things stimulate roots. They stimulate flowers. They stimulate the overall health of the plant that you put in there. It is a balance to other fertilizers. Other fertilizers are like, fish emulsion. That's a very good one. If you put those two together, you've got a nice liquid fertilizer. But you can use the seaweed by itself also. MicroLife makes a super seaweed. They've got a blend that's just perfect. And so at planting and foliar feeding, any of those times, this is a good one. And I've been around seaweed a long time. I've used it from the beginning of organic gardening for me. And that's 40 something years, maybe more, maybe up to 50 now. I know I don't look it, but I've been doing it that long. And so it's one of the first things I learned about through Organic Gardening Magazine, through the local Organic Gardening Club, and through several of the specialists that I had a beautiful chance to go hear when they were speaking. And they always brought up the seaweed and the benefits of the seaweed. And that's how I learned about it too. So going into the summer, going into the winter, use it as a drench, use it as a foliar, and you will see the difference. Once the plant is established, which is 7 to 10 days, seaweed works very fast, especially as a foliar. Go ahead and introduce the fish emulsion, the liquid fertilizer with the nitrogen in it and phosphorus and a little bit of potash. These things are in there, and they will help balance the whole thing. That combination, you'll see jump. These plants will jump in there. You'll see plants that are well established. You feed them, they will respond to that very, very quickly. You won't see that with some of the chemicals. They jump and then they need it again. They jump and they need it again. What you need is slow release sustainability in your garden. That's what you'll get. And once again, I mentioned earlier the conservation of water. This organic matter in these different products right there will help you save the water. We don't have much as gardeners. Some days I feel guilty out there with that hose in my hand, or I got a sprinkler on for a while. And it does make a difference. It makes a big difference. I feel better. And the value of it is tremendous. We don't have a lot of water left. And if it sounds like an alarm, it is an alarm. It is an important thing to be considering. Collecting the rainwater is also very important. So it's a bloom season. You know, cabbage and broccoli and some of those plants, those are blooming plants. They're not flowers necessarily like we're accustomed to, but they are blooming plants. And so this one right here is a very good one from MicroLife. It's a very good one for the blooming plants. Now, Mike Serrant is an old friend of mine. And gosh, we're part of a group that made the rules up for certification in the state of Texas, certification of farms and products. And we all worked together. And he was brilliant. He knew what he wanted. He knew early on the direction that he wanted to proceed in. And I think all of us did. We were all dedicated to making organics work for us. And we've done that. It's worked very well. But Mike went beyond what many of us have done. And he continued to study the products, and he continued to study their effect on plants and in the soil. And he developed this line called MicroLife. I like it a whole lot. And I'm proud of Mike for pursuing this. He could have done many other things. The guy's brilliant, but he did this. He just continued. He dedicated his life to this kind of a product. And so that's why I'm glad to talk about it, because I'm not being paid to talk about it or anything. I like Mike a lot, and I like his products. So that's what we're talking about today. A fellow who developed a complete line of organic gardening products, whether they're granules or the liquids. And I find times to use both of them. It's not just one. If I'm making up a potting soil, I'll add some of the granular fertilizers to the mix so that when those roots hit it, those plants just jump. They start growing. And he even has compost in a granular form. I mean, you can't beat that. Compost is usually put out there with a rake and a shovel. And when you need a small amount somewhere in your garden, this container right here has it in it. And so that's something that you're not going to find everywhere. Handfuls of compost that come off the shelf that is a very, very good product. And let me see here. Compost doesn't always smell. You know, sometimes it does. There is no smell at all in there. I smell the bottle cap, not the compost. So some people are worried. Yeah, but it smells. No, it doesn't have to smell. And if it does smell, not this one, but if you think a product does smell, well, to me, it smells good because this is what I do. And I've had a wonderful experience with people like Mike Sarant and Malcolm Beck and so many others with using organics to grow spectacular crops, whether they're vegetables, butterfly gardens, herb gardens. They look so good. They're not overgrown. They're not pushed into an abnormal type of growth. And it's a soil builder. Once again, we go back to building that soil because a healthy soil with organic matter in it, like a sponge, it holds water. And it develops a deeper root system, another component of using water properly. That water is down there deeper, and so the roots go down and find it. The roots are pretty smart. I've seen them work on different things, like some of these jugs that you put water into. They will go to it. So they'll go to the nutrients that are in the soil too without being signaled in any way. And they benefit from it because they grow very nice and vigorously. So here's a good everyday or weekly or even monthly type of a fertilizer from the organic world. And this one right here is Ocean Harvest. It's a good one for the maintenance of your plants. Container plants, any kind of a plant that needs a little bit of nutrient now and then. Finally, along the way, what I do, well, I've done it a lot, so I know how to do this a little bit. I splash it in there. I can tell when I've measured the right amount and what the plant needs, and then I'll go back in there and feed. It's not real technical, and it's easy to do. It's not a lot of prep work at all, and it makes gardening much more successful. This company has a full line of products, whether it's for cacti or other plants. They've got everything that you need. So look for a nursery that contains MicroLife products, and you'll see that the people there will know what they're talking about. They don't just bring it in for nothing. They know why they want it, and they know why you want it too. So when you come in there and you describe a situation, whether something is failing to thrive or just getting started or it needs to go into bloom, they'll tell you about the MicroLife products like I just did. And I only mentioned a few of them. And here in the fall, it's a great season to garden again. It's been dry, but that doesn't mean we have to miss the season. We just have to use a good mulch, rebuild the soil with compost, and then use the right type of fertilizers that are alive. These life-giving products right here introduce the bacteria also. Well, that's a little bit of a hint on why I like these products. They're very good products. And I've been using them for a while, ever since we brought them in. And they've been in my garden almost exclusively now. I've learned to fall in love with them and really depend on them too, because there's nothing better than a good, strong success in your garden. So whether it's your roses or your okra, which you can't stop growing, and or anything else, this line right here is going to be the one of your first choice. It's a value, and it's the way to garden these days. Mike has studied, and he's done something that no one else has done. He's put together the best balanced line of organic fertilizers. I'm John Dromgoole, and I'll see you next time, maybe out in the garden.